Heyo, welcome back to Warrior School. Before we head on to other topics, I would like to talk about the properties of blocks. This is preliminary knowledge because you need to know what you're working with when you're building. You're going to be placing a lot of endstone in the Warrior community, but the more advanced you go, the more frequently you'll need some blocks with very specific combinations of attributes. I'm not going to talk about the applications of all of these properties in length, I just want to make you aware that these are a thing and something to consider. I'm also not going to talk about all properties, but those that come up frequently, also not in any particular order. So first of all, hitboxes are how blocks block entities. Some blocks don't collide at all. So for example, pressure plates and flowers and redstone dust. As you can see, I can just walk over these and nothing happens. I don't jump up even a pixel. I just pass right through these, even though, of course, the pressure plate activates when I step on it. Yeah, we usually, if they do collide, measure a hitbox by how far into the block each face is. So for example, for a campfire, we would say this has a 16 pixel hitbox to all sides, except for the top. And the top is 7 pixels up from the bottom. And for a chain, we would say if it's upright like this, that it has a 16 pixel hitbox on the top and on the bottom, but to all sides it has a 9.5 pixel hitbox. So it's 9.5 pixels into the hitbox from the left right now. So that means there are 6.5 pixels missing to the right. And yeah, some blocks also have regular shapes, so it's not always as simple as with the campfire. As you can see, if I hover over this, you can also see the outlines of the hitbox, just like here. And here you can see it too, but as you can see, and you've walked on stairs before, I'm certain, the collision is actually, stairs have steps, you know how they work. And there are others with irregular shapes. For example, hoppers have this bottom part that actually collides differently, like as you can see. And lanterns have this little top part in 2 steps. Um, yeah, and there are many more with irregular shapes. These are just some examples. And as part of hitboxes, I'll also include whether or not the top face is a full square, because that usually means that you can run redstone dust along them like this. Yeah, so then the second property is whether or not the blocks are conductive. I've already talked in another episode, episode 2, I think, that glass doesn't transmit redstone signals. And there are many like it, like stairs and slabs. Like blocks that are not full solid blocks usually don't transmit redstone signals. And then there are some others that are full blocks but are like glass in that they don't transmit redstone signals still. Then we have blast resistance that we just talked about in the last episode. So it's how much strength of an explosion a block absorbs. The examples I showed in the last video were moss with 0.2 and stone with 6 and stone with 9 and water with 100. I'm not talking about the cauldron with water in it, I'm just talking about the water. Where 0.2 was very low, 6 was around a medium, 9 was pretty high, at least for our purposes, and then 100 is just nothing gets through anymore, right? Then we have the property of whether or not the block is movable at all. So there are a lot of blocks like jukeboxes and barrels and beehives that can't be moved. And we don't talk about obsidian here because obsidian is forbidden in our community because it has a blast resistance so high that it can't ever blow up. But in theory, it also belongs to this group, of course. Then we have whether or not a block is sticky. As you might know, if slime is moved, it takes other blocks around it with itself. That is, if those blocks are sticky. So sticky doesn't describe slime's sliminess. Instead, it describes what slime sticks to. So for example, dirt is sticky because slime, when it moves, takes the dirt with it. And glazed terracotta would be considered not sticky because it doesn't. Yeah. Then we also have blocks that break when they're pushed and are just dropped. So for example, we have cobwebs here. As you can see, they get dropped. And we have melons, and we have flowers, and there are many more like this. Then we have whether a block is waterloggable or not. So can you place a water source into the block and then they just coexist, the water and the block? So for example, stairs are like this, slabs and trapdoors and campfires, fences, chests, got a crouch, and many, many more. So if it's a solid block and it's not a full block, it's often the case that you can waterlog these, even if you sometimes wouldn't think you could. Like with chests, maybe you didn't know, maybe you did know. But again, as with pushing, there are some blocks that simply get flushed when they come into contact with water, like carpets and flower pots and most redstone components. The server just lagged a little bit. Okay, but as you can see, these all get flushed, drop as items. Then we have some very weird blocks that affect the way that entities move. So for example, some make entities fall slower or move slower in general, like powdered snow. Powdered snow acts like cobwebs in this case. You can't look into this, and I would pick up the item if I shot it at me like this. So I'll just move away and you'll have to trust me that this takes much longer than it would usually. I mean, I can just do this once more and then compare this to that. I think that should be intuitive enough. Then there are some blocks that make entities slide, specifically pace. So usually the entity would stop very soon after being launched, but here it slides. The reason I use dropped entities here, like dropped items, is because they also act like any other entity. So you could also imagine this affecting TNT just like this. Prime TNT, that is. And then slime makes entities bounce. So if I get unlucky, nothing happens, of course. And if I get unlucky twice, nothing happens again. But there, as you can see, it bounces a little bit. I should not have picked that up. And then, damn it. I should have built a little funnel. Okay. It's getting sillier by the second. I'm building a funnel. You can't stop me. I just want to show that it also can be then moved by a piston, for example, and that will actually sort of shoot the entity. And again, this also works with prime TNT. So yeah, then we're almost at the end. There are some blocks that have multiple states, like fence gates and doors and trap doors. This is also very interesting sometimes. For example, fence gates actually change their hitbox. I mean, all of these change their hitbox, but fence gates, as you might know, you can't jump over them if they're closed, which means that, again, their hitbox extends beyond what you can see. It's then 1.5 blocks high. And if you open it, all that's gone. I'm telling you this because this is very interesting later on. And yeah, some others like these copper bulbs. Again, there are more. This is just an excerpt. And finally, I'll also count whether or not a block redirects redstone signals. So most redstone components do redirect redstone signals. Some don't, like pistons. And then there's also the target block, which is very interesting because this one is a block that's conductive. So you can basically absorb a redstone signal that's running by it, and then have this conductive block that can, for example, power any component like a node block, for example, and then a node comes out. Yeah, so that's it really. If we have a little callback to what we talked about, we have hitboxes, conductivity, blast resistance, whether a block is movable or breaks when it's attempted to be moved, and whether a block is sticky, whether it's waterloggable or flushes when in contact with water, whether it slows, slides, or bounces entities, has multiple states, and redirects dust. Something neat that I just wanted to show off is that there is a web page that's called the Minecraft Block Property Encyclopedia, where you can actually filter for properties of blocks. So for example, let's make up a scenario. Maybe you want a block that has a specific hitbox. For example, you care about the height of it. And let's say you need something specific like a 10 pixel hitbox to the top, and you want that it is not flushed by water. Then you would go to destruction gets flushed. And now I can select here that it doesn't get flushed. And then I see everything that I could use for these specific properties. And this has a GitHub page and is actually sometimes updated. You yourself can help also. For example, 3 weeks ago, currently, it was updated. So yeah, this is neat. Exists right now. All right then, I hope you enjoyed this one. If you want, you can join the WarGear International Discord server. If I made any errors, feel free to correct me, and if you have questions, ask them. And yeah, if you want to support this, like, subscribe, maybe leave a comment. Everything helps. Have a good day.